Before starting this video, I do want to give a shout out to my patrons that support the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are some great benefits for you if you want to look at the Patreon link down below. So with that out of the way, let's get into this week's video. What's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today of Pub Stomp MTG. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to be revisiting a classic commander that is going to be the de facto Phyrexian Tribal Commander probably for a long time. I was hoping for the new Phyrexia All Will Be One set to get a de facto commander for Phyrexian Tribal only specifically. However, that didn't happen. We did get another Atraxa, so that was pretty good. If you want to go check out the video I did make about her, I'll post the link above here. However, I feel like Atraxa Praetors Voice is still the de facto commander for Phyrexian Tribal, so with a lot of the new stuff that came out, I personally feel like we can make the ultimate Phyrexian Tribal deck right now. This is the most popular commander according to EDH Rec. EDH Rec is a good source to kind of track what commanders are popular and aren't popular in Commander. However, there were a lot of updates since Atraxa has been out, and for a couple of years, we do have the new Phyrexia All Will Be One set. First of all, we do want to add the new Praetors, old and new, so we do have the new Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, Vorinclex Monstrous Raider, jin-gitaxias, Progress Tyrant, and Shieldred the Apocalypse. These all provide that synergy of I get the benefit and your opponents don't get the benefit. I specifically like Vorinclex Monstrous Raider in here, especially because it has a lot of synergy with different kinds of counters that we're going to be adding into this deck. However, I did want to add the Old Praetors because I feel like they give a great flavor to the deck, like Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite, Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger, jin-gitaxias, Core Augur, and Shieldred the Whispering One. I would say these are a little bit more clunky compared to the new Phyrexians, but I do feel like these have a great home in here because we do have a lot of great reanimation targets because they are pretty beefy and expensive, but we want to make sure we get a little bit of a reanimation theme in here as well so that we could get all the big chunky creatures out on the battlefield in a good way. We want to make sure we can put them into the graveyard like having Entomb and Buried Alive, where we could search them up from the library and put them into the graveyard so we don't have to worry about drawing them into our hand. And on top of that, so that we don't have to worry about casting them, we could just reanimate them with cards like, of course, Reanimate and Victimize. I feel like these are just great cards overall. And to get our high CMC Praetors out onto the battlefield efficiently is just a great option overall. However, the Praetors are inviting all, and I mean all, to join into the completion progress that includes the Planeswalkers. I'm only adding the Phyrexianized Planeswalkers into this list. It wouldn't make too much sense to have Teferi in here, for example, but we do have Tamiyo Completed Sage, the first Phyrexianized Planeswalker by jin-gitaxias. It does have some great abilities right here. Also, I did want to add in the sleeper agent himself, Ajani. What a great storyline in Dominaria, at least in my opinion, but it does have some great synergy because we do have a lot of different counter themes, so it has that great ability of distributing counters. On top of that, having almost a game-winning ability, you get an emblem where whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. Again, we're going to be going over some of the poison counters later on, but this is just a great card to have. Also, we do have Vraska Betrayal's Sting. I personally feel like this is the best Planeswalker in the list right here. You just have that great ability of drawing a card, losing 1 life, but then you get a Proliferate. Also does have a great ability of making creatures into treasure tokens, whether you want to make your own creatures into treasure tokens like some of the mites in the deck, or if you want to turn somebody else's creature into a treasure token. It's kind of flavorful in my opinion because, of course, she's a Gorgon. She turns things into stone, so what a flavor win right there. Also, if you want to hit your opponents like a truck, Nissa Ascended Animus is absolutely great, making creatures, destroying a target artifact or enchantment, and almost doing like a similar Craterhoof Behemoth kind of effect on your opponents is absolutely great in here in my opinion. Also, I was debating on putting Jace the Perfected Mind in here because it doesn't really fit with the theme, but then the more I thought about it, it does say target player builds 3 cards, so that could include ourselves right here. Again, we do have a reanimation package in here, so I think this is the reason why Jace was making the cut here, because it just has a great ability of putting cards into our graveyard, then reanimating them later on with some reanimation spells. I do have about like 5 or so reanimation spells on here, so honestly, just a great fit in here just to mill some cards in our deck. Also, I do want to talk a little bit about counter synergy, specifically proliferate. Of course, we have some of the planeswalkers that I did mention. Those are the only planeswalkers in this list. However, it's going to be more of an infect theme right here. So we do have Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, the granddaddy of all Phyrexians himself, having a great ability of discarding a card and proliferate. Again, we could discard a card like Sheoldred and then reanimate it later with Yawgmoth on the battlefield. So just a good card in here. I just thought I had to include it because, again, he's the granddaddy of all Phyrexians. Also, I did want to add in Tcgplayer Inquiry Dominus. I did make a deck tech on this commander previously. If you want to go check that out, it's in the description. So it does have flying, and if you would proliferate, you proliferate twice instead. And it does have that ability of making itself indestructible. So we do have a lot of proliferate options in here. Just having that extra benefit of proliferating twice, especially with Atraxa at the beginning of your end step, you proliferate. Instead of just once, you're going to be doing it twice. Just a great card overall to add in here. Also, because you're going to be proliferating with Atraxa at the end of your end step, you might as well get some card advantage with Azuri Stalker of Spheres. Honestly, this is just great overall because whenever you proliferate, you draw a card. You're just going to be drawing cards at the end of your step every single turn when you have Azuri on the battlefield with Atraxa. Also, because we have a lot of great options for proliferating like Tcgplayer, we're just going to be drawing so much cards and getting so much advantage with Azuri for sure. And also on top of that, it could proliferate when it enters the battlefield as long as you pay 3 mana into it. But all this proliferation is great, but however, we want to make sure we infect the minds of our opponents and we could win the game with Infect or other means with Toxic. For example, we do have Skittles himself, the Blight Dragon. It does have Infect, and it has that great ability of getting haste and regenerating itself. And on top of that, if you're able to get some more counters on Skittles, and on top of that proliferate those counters, the Infect damage is going to be huge because it does have some evasion with flying. So definitely a great include, no doubt about it. I did also want to bring in the new commanders with Ixhel, Scion of Atraxa, and Vishgraz, Scion of Ixhel, the Doom Hive. It's kind of funny how there's like a weird family tree going on with Atraxa being the mother of Ixhel, and then Ixhel making Vishgraz technically being its offspring. Ixhel being great because it does have Toxic too, and also on top of that could give you some card advantage from your opponents as well, as long as they're corrupted, as long as you have 3 or more poison counters on your opponents. Also, Vishgraz being an absolute unit, making 3 1/1 colorless Phyrexia My Artifact creature tokens on the battlefield, and on top of that we're going to have a lot of poison counters on our opponents, so it's just going to get extra huge on top of that. However, if you want to hear my honest opinion about Toxic, I feel like it makes Infect even more busted because you could give those Toxic creatures Infect on top of that. So say for example we have the Fairy Tale Christmas hand where we get a Dark Ritual out, we cast it, and then we'll entomb something like Tyrannix Rex, and then we'll reanimate it onto the battlefield. It does have some great stats being an 8/8, Trample, Ward 4, and Haste. It does have Toxic 4. We could swing away from our Phyrexianized Dinosaur, and then on the stack we could play Tainted Strike targeting Tyrannix Rex so that we could then give it Infect. So if there were no responses for that opponent would lose the game, and the salt score on that opponent will be high for Infect. That's just one scenario that I could see with Toxic mixing in with Infect. However, I personally feel like Toxic with Infect is absolutely busted in my opinion. However, in wrapping up, I do feel like Atraxa Praetors Voice is definitely the de facto Phyrexian Tribal Commander still, because with Phyrexians they do a lot of different things with counters, so Atraxa Praetors Voice has that great ability at proliferating at the beginning of their end step. I do wish, however, we did get a Phyrexian focused Tribal Commander in my opinion, but Atraxa is still going to be the queen of all the Phyrexian Tribal decks out there. So this is just my version, my kind of spin on Atraxa. I did want to focus on that Phyrexian Tribal specifically. I didn't want to add in any Super Friends craziness. I know I did add in some Planeswalkers, but they were Phyrexianized, so that was kind of justified right there. However, I did want to make sure there was a Phyrexian focus in here specifically. However, do you feel like when we have the March of the Machine set coming out, do you feel like we'll get the de facto Phyrexian Tribal Commander, or do you think we'll still have Atraxa Praetors Voice? I do love Atraxa. I did play Atraxa a long time ago, but I kind of fell out of love with it in a way because I felt like the game plan was always the same and some kind of counter synergy. However, I do feel like with the new support of Phyrexia, all will be one, kind of reignited my love for Atraxa. I definitely like the new version a little better because it's doing something that's just good stuff. Also, I play a little higher powered games, so I do like the fact that it could be a food chain commander in a high-powered game if you want to play it that way. However, let me know down below, what are your thoughts? What do you think about the new set in total? I plan on making a couple more videos about this set. Which commanders do you want to see come out of here? As I'm making deck techs, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's definitely the best way to support the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stopping by.